Nigeria. So we're doing justice to this issue. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening to you too. Okay, the prevalence of ritual killings in Nigeria. I mean, we've always had ritual killings with us, but very recently the cases are rising. What is responsible?
Well, I think one of the big things that we need to talk about will be the way we have turned money to the God that we all serve. It's gone are the days when you are talking about patience. Take your time, work hard. Over time, you'll get a lot of things. But today, everybody just wants to become millionaire overnight. And of course, even from the home front, the parents are also not doing so much to instill in their children the values of patience, diligence, hard work, honesty, integrity. All of these things are lost. And because people see money being thrown around every now and then, they want to also have the money. And then a big problem in our society is we have a lot of people who have the money, but we cannot trace, they cannot tell the story of the money. So it's difficult for them to even help many other persons understand the pathway to riches. So when you have a lot of riches in the system, but there's no pathway to the riches, that's what you would always get. A very desperate generation who just wants to spend money without working.
The other day, an armed robber was arrested, and he said that he learned what he was doing from a particular actor, Zubi Michael, to be precise. That he learned armed robbery from some of the movies of this guy that he watched, and also the boys who took a life in Ogun State. They also referenced saying how to go about ritual killings on Facebook, and there are those who have also said that Nollywood should be blamed for this. What do you think?
Well, I think that would not be doing justice to this whole conversation if we're limiting it to Nollywood, because the truth of the matter is that the value system in our system is in the society is messed up completely. So Nollywood, as you call it, is a reflection of the valueless society that we are in. And if you want to also talk about Nollywood, we should still be honest a bit. When you see all of this anomalies in those movies, at the end of it, the perpetrators do not go scot-free. So if we want to talk about Nollywood, you would say, yes, they talk so much about all these ritual killings and all of that, but then they still also talk about the consequence. So why are people not talking about the music industry? Why are people not talking about the skit industry where you just always see people throw riches, and then you start asking, is it that easy? You see somebody who does one song in 3 years, and then you see gold all over him, and then you start asking, is it from the proceeds of the one song that a lot of people don't even know? So it's not a conversation of Nollywood, it's a bigger conversation of the society. And if you want to look at the entertainment space, I think the music industry is more guilty than Nollywood. The skit industry is also something that needs to be looked at, because these are decoys that some people use to do what they have to do. And then, of course, when you keep seeing how the supposed entertainers lavish money all around, there's no way you would also not want to have the money. And a lot of the messages being communicated in these songs, they only make people become more desperate to have this money. They make it look like money is all that they need to get. Some of them would even tell you, without money, you are nobody. And why would a young person not want to be a somebody? And so they feel the way to be somebody is to just get money at whatever means possible.
In the past, when we talk about ritual killings, we often back then associated ritual killings with older people. But now you have younger people going into that. Those boys arrested in Ogun State, if you put their different ages together, they still fall within the teenage brackets, and you keep wondering why.
See, I say something that the people who work hard are the ones who look like the lazy ones in our society right now. And unfortunately, there's a systemic failure. I would not even call it a failure. I would say a systemic collapse, where the major institutions that you would even act as checks on this are promoters of this evil that we see around. Do you want to talk about the religious system? When you have a lot of money, you are popular in your church, in your mosque. The law enforcement officers who are supposed to act as a major check, what they do is to negotiate. So these guys know that all they need to do is to just give this guy some money, and then they are scot-free. And parents start insulting the hardworking young boy or girl who has not started bringing in the big money, and start comparing him or her to the other child who they do not know the source of the wealth, but that one has money to throw around. So there's a whole lot of pressure from every societal sector. There's the pressure of wanting to feel among. There's the pressure of wanting to be equal. And the different paths to success, we may not be able to tell.
So what you're saying is that, because the question some people are asking is, who is to blame for all of this? It seems from your point, we have to blame, everyone of us.
We are all to blame. We are all to blame, because when you see people throwing money around and all you want to is to be a part of the money without wanting to know how, then you're already a part of the problem. Some people, you see a lot of analysis. Oh, this is why this has to happen. This is why this has to happen. They are products of, they are victims of the Nigerian society. And I keep saying, they are victims, and are they not victims of the Nigerian society too? All the persons who are working so hard and making good money, are they not victims of the same society? But in all of that, they have still found legitimate path to success, to riches. Riches is not as difficult as many people think, but the consistency and diligence required and the discipline required is what many young persons do not want to have. And of course, the messages on here do not also promote diligence. They promote the quick success syndrome. And that's why you would also notice that all of these quick money making schemes are all around us today, because they know that they have to play on the greed of the average young Nigerian. You would not also leave the people at the helms of affairs out of this whole blame, because you see many of them who had nothing, and then of course you just had some little access to money, and the next thing you are already extremely rich. How did you become suddenly rich? So there's just that whole display of wealth without a display or without an evidence of productivity in our society. We see a lot of riches, but we do not see productivity. And once that gap is always there, you would always breed criminals. You would always breed desperados. And I was telling somebody earlier today that some people think that the implosion has happened, but the implosion is not already with us. We're still looking at it, and it's important for everyone to be a voice against all of these things. And of course, the Yahoo boys are there. A lot of people also feel that this whole ritual killing is just a smoke screen, because again, while we are supposed to be focused on how to ensure that values are entrenched in our society, the conversation or the debate is ritual killing real?
That's the question that some people have asked as well. That those who are doing this, do they even know what they're doing? Some have said, well, it's not even ritual killings per se. That some boys, can be misled into killing people. Then when they kill them, they harvest their organs. Then they give these organs to those who told them to go kill and who promised them that the moment you have these organs, then you become rich. At the end of the day, many of them even sell these organs. So it's more like they're engaging in organ harvesting.
Yeah, so I would want to agree with to a large extent, because you see also that some people who claim that they are running jobs, they have jobs available for unemployed. What they do is just to use some style to get a database of persons that are potential victims. And that's where we have got to in our society today, where we just use all sorts of gimmicks to get people's contacts and database. And then from time to time, we're able to identify, okay, who is supposed to be the next victim to be scammed this time around. So I totally agree that we have a lot of organ harvesters who are hiding under the old banner of ritual killing to get unsuspecting, desperate young boys and girls to be the tools through which they get the organs they harvest. So it's just more of raising more awareness and ensuring that whatever space we find ourselves in, we're a voice of reason. we're not supposed to get carried away by all of the things that, because again, it doesn't look fashionable when you try to challenge all these anomalies. But whether it is fashionable or not, we must speak the truth. Truth is always hard to say, but you would always have to do it.
All right. Now, how do we return dignity to labor? Because that is very key and important. How do we stamp out this disturbing trend? Some have said, well, what we need to do is to return dignity to labor. That if, as a society as well, we need to come together and realize that we have a problem on our hands. That if we do not realize that we have a problem, then there's no way the problem can be solved. That we need to realize first, admit that as a problem. So now, how do we curb this disturbing trend?
One of the saddest things about our society is that I'm not even sure there's any deliberate efforts on the part of government to stem the tide of these crazy things. Because when you look at it, government itself is an enabler of many of these things. The people who are working hard are not identified for anything meaningful. The guys who you celebrate in the society today, a lot of them are questionable persons. People who don't have any means of livelihood, but have the money to throw around. So those are the guys we celebrate. Even in government circles, in religious circles, we do all of this. So we need to get back to the point where we start reminding ourselves that a good name is very good. A good name, you must leave a legacy of a name that your relatives will be proud to say, this one is from me. We must start teaching about loving what you get through the labor of your hands. It's a very tough work because of where we have found ourselves, because many messages right now just want people to also think money. I'm going to say something that some persons may find a bit controversial, but this old system of teaching in the spiritual circle, teaching about individual prosperity, without necessarily talking about the communal good, is also one of the problems. So you just want personal prosperity at the expense of what? Yes, prosperity is good, but we need to also look at the community as a whole. How do we become responsible parts of the community, whatever community we find ourselves in? How do we use the value that we put into the society as the tool to attract riches to ourselves? We must retune or reprogram the messaging style. The messaging style up to this point is wired for people to just want to have money, and that must change.
Fún àwọn tí yóò gbọ́ èdè òyìnbó, a máa mẹ́nu bà gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń sọ látẹ̀kan ní èdè Yorùbá. Ẹ̀yin náà mọ̀, ẹ ti gbọ́ dáadáa, ẹ ti kà á.